Hey guys, it's Rebecca here with Sandbox again to hopefully give you guys some tips for going overseas and PCSing. So this video is going to be sectioned off into a couple of different sections because I tend to ramble, so I'm trying to kind of keep it sectioned so you guys can understand a little bit better and not just have a bunch of different random tips thrown at you and be like, well, what do I do with all this information? So the first section that we're going to be talking about is the apps that you need to download if you're going overseas. The second section that we're going to talk about is social media and how it can connect you and really what's the best way to do that and what you should definitely look for on Facebook in order to help you out when you go to your new base. The third little section is going to be about using base resources. There's so many awesome resources on base and you got to make sure that you use them or you're going to end up kind of confused when you first get there and it's going to be a little bit harder to adjust. The next section is going to be other tips. I have tons of different random tips in my brain just because I've gone through it myself. So the last section is going to be just random different tips. You can take them, you can leave them, do whatever you want with them. So that's what the layout of this video is going to be. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first section is apps you need to download. Obviously, there's tons of apps that can help you out when you're in a foreign country, but one really important one is Google Translate or some kind of really reliable translator. When we moved to Japan, I ended up using Google Translate almost every day to try and understand what was going on in certain situations, even to just order things at a restaurant. It was super convenient to have that. I liked Google Translate because you could actually take a picture of the item and then it would tell you what it was when you highlighted what you wanted to know. So it was really convenient. If you have another app that works best for you, make sure you download it before you get there and it'll just make the whole process a lot easier. The other thing I would definitely recommend downloading is some kind of map or guide of the transit system. So when we lived in Japan, there was actually a kind of like gaijin proof, which gaijin is their word for foreigner. There was like a gaijin proof transit app that you could download and it would help you go through the different places and it would tell you like, okay, you're at this station, you need to be at this station next in order to catch the right train at the right time. If you can do a little bit of research and try to figure out what works best for your location, I'm sure there's something that'll help you out in order to figure out the transit system at your location. Because interesting enough, in the US, we don't really use like the train or the buses a lot, but I've noticed that overseas, they use it a lot more and it's just easier than driving around sometimes because you can just map it all out and have it right there. So definitely recommend downloading some kind of a Google Translate or translator app. And then I also recommend downloading some kind of a train or transportation app that'll tell you what lines you should be on and when. So this next section is making sure that you connect with social media. As much as social media is like kind of overboard sometimes, it is really good to use social media to connect when it comes to living in a foreign country because sometimes that's really the only way you can connect when you're currently still in the US and you're researching things about your new station that you're going to be at. So I would definitely recommend joining Facebook groups, whether it be like the spouses of that base. For example, we had Yokota spouses at Yokota Air Force Base. So look up those different groups, join them, and then figure out which one works best for you. Some of them are most gossip groups, and that's really all they do is just gossip about things, but some of them actually have really good information, and they can help you with your transition to that foreign country. Another thing I would look at is Facebook group for selling things. And one really big group that we had was the Yokota Lemon Lot. And it was a huge Facebook group where you could sell your car before you leave or PCS from that station. A lot of people were selling their cars and they were selling them for cheap. For example, I got my car when we were over there for like $2,000 and my husband got his for like $500. You really just need a car for that time and that small period of time that you're there on that base. Definitely look up car sales on Facebook and see if you can find like a swap page. It's also really convenient for when you first get there and let's say you don't have the right kind of furniture to fit your house or you want to switch out a different coffee room table because you don't like the one you currently have. It's really convenient to look at those swap pages because they just have tons of different people that are at your base that'll help you find the right thing that you need. You also want to make sure and check out the FSS page or the family readiness page or even the library page for your base on Facebook, because they'll have different events and cultural things that'll help you kind of figure out your way around the base and also help you figure out the culture of the place that you're moving to, because it is going to be your host country and those people you're going to be around for 2 to 4 years. So you need to kind of learn the culture a little bit in order to adjust to it and make it an easier transition. One really cool thing that my base did was the ITT trips, and they had a ton of different trips that you could go on that were cultural trips or just fun trips, and it would help you meet people but also help you kind of get used to going off base and not just staying on base all the time. Speaking of base, number 3 is to make sure and use base resources. There are so many awesome resources on the base. Like I mentioned earlier, the Family Readiness Center, the ITT trips. The Family Readiness Center is a great place to go to when you first get to the base, because they have all sorts of different classes to help you get used to being in that culture and adapt to what's going on base. So I would definitely recommend using all of the resources that they have there. Go into the FSS page, like it, subscribe to it, follow it, whatever, so that you get all of the base events as well, and that'll help you kind of meet people when you show up to those events. It's also a good idea to think about the base resources in transportation. If you check it out, they probably have a base bus that'll help you when you first get there, because you're not gonna have a car. So if you wanna go into like the FSS page, they'll be able to look up all the transportation schedules for the base bus, and you can check it out, see where the stations are on base, and if it's close to where your temporary housing is going to be, if you're going to be in temporary housing. It'll just kind of help you figure out the base before you even get there. They might even have a taxi pickup, which is also super convenient because you can take a taxi that goes on base and off base. Some of the different stations that we went to had that. So a really cool thing that your base might have. Definitely look into it. If they do, it's super convenient. Another thing I would definitely recommend is checking out the base map, but also checking out if they have any curfews. For example, in Japan, they had a curfew, so we had to be home at a certain time and couldn't be out and about. It's a good thing to know, and it's also a safe thing to know, because let's say you don't know about this curfew and you end up being out, you could get in some serious trouble with your command. So check out the base curfews, check out what's going on with that, and just be aware of everything before you even get to the base. Number 4 is my other tip. So just random other tips that I have. One of the big tips that I have is make sure and try and learn the language before you ever get there. It'll just kind of give you a heads up, and it'll make it so that it's an easier transition for you. An easy way to do this is Rosetta Stone has a good discount, but you can also just use apps. And I find apps so convenient because you can just have it on your phone wherever you go. You've got this app, pull it out. You can play like in between commercial breaks during night when you're hanging out. So it's really convenient to just have it on your phone. So I definitely recommend doing that before you get there, just to prepare yourself. Speaking of language, I would also recommend maybe looking into becoming an English teacher at your location. When we were in Japan, being an English teacher was one of the best jobs that you could really have, because you were able to learn about things off base. You were able to meet people off base. You also got to learn the language just by going to work, and there was a ton of different opportunities for English teaching. One really cool thing that happened in Japan was that the Japanese people just kind of wanted to have a conversation with someone who spoke English, so you would literally get paid to sit in a cafe and just have like a basic conversation about the weather or about golfing or whatever it may be, and you would get paid for it. So you didn't even need to know the language in order to be an English teacher. It might be a good idea to get the TEFL certification before you even get there. Look that up, do some research into it, and it might be something that you're interested in. Thanks guys for watching this video. Hope I gave you some helpful tips. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to comment below. And thanks for watching guys, and hope to see you on our next video.